Okay, welcome ladies and gentlemen to our Track 5 session for this afternoon with a focus on Africa, the private solution for the public good. My name is Andrew Short. I'm a Regional Director for GEMS Education Solutions, heavily involved in the continent in public-private partnerships and working with our Vaki GEMS Foundation. Before we ask our panel to contribute to what is an exhilarating session this afternoon, I'd like to call up the STIR innovator to the stage to give us a live example of education happening in the classroom. So please come forward. Matthias, yeah?
Good afternoon to everyone. I've got a privilege here tonight to share with you, and I'm part of the STAR Education based in Uganda. I'm by the name of Kayondo Matthias, and I'm a teacher by professional, and I teach a school called Eden College. It's a privilege to be here in Dubai, a teacher not just from Uganda, but across the world, and I am a teacher as to act as a teacher change maker, to contribute in the innovations that answer some of the challenges that we have in our education communities, school communities. I work as a teacher in a country where we have many challenges, such as large classes, large class sizes, teacher shortages, and lack of focus in our learning outcomes, as well as also inadequate funds. So I would like to keep focused on the ground realities and the importance of teachers being part of the solution of education system. I would like to share one of the innovations by one of our teacher change maker in Africa, and she's called Anit Babirie, a biology teacher. Given that in Africa, there is a challenge where, when it comes to teaching and studying sciences, we don't have enough equipment. And basically, personally, I would say that's why even I failed personally to cope up with sciences, because at the time the teacher could come into class and start teaching chemistry and just mentioning about zinc, and I could imagine what's all about zinc. And actually, I couldn't have a very good picture about what it is. So this teacher, because there wasn't enough equipment and resources and in teaching the biology, so she could ask the students to come with a specimen from home a day or days before the lesson. For example, if she was to teach a topic about different parts of the flower, or a leaf, or an insect, she would ask students to pick flowers from home or on the way to school, so that by the time the lesson takes place, each student has a specimen to look, hence facilitating learning. And with that, this has helped the learners to cope up with ease learning when it comes actually to science subjects. And I hope if we all can learn from her, I think we can in that simple way, we can play part in contributing to the innovations and also answering solutions to the challenging situation in our education communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthias, for reminding us what we're all here for, which is around teaching and learning. Just hand over now to our panel of speakers, led by Dr. Wiebe Boer. Look forward to your contributions. We have one panelist who hasn't arrived. Should he arrive, we'll very, very quickly bring him to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. I feel like I'm in church with the front rows empty, so feel free to move up if you have the inclination. My name is Dr. Wiebe Boer, and I'm the CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation. We're a Nigerian-based foundation that focuses on entrepreneurship and competitiveness across Africa. And As a foundation, we are looking to partner with GEMS on a potential investment in schools and skills in Nigeria. So it's a great pleasure to be here and to see the entire GEMS family and be part of this remarkable gathering. We have a distinguished panel today. We first have His Excellency Mr. Serine Thiam, who's the Minister of National Education in Senegal, and who was previously the Minister of Higher Education. So he has experience across the entire educational space in Senegal. We then have Ms. Hannah Godefa, who is a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, and in spite of her youth, has already had a transformational impact on education in her home country of Ethiopia. And then finally, we have Mr. Momar Nger, who is a Senior VP for Total for Africa and the Middle East. So we have a panel that represents youth, public sector, and private sector. So we'll get a lot of really good and diverse insights today, I hope. So as everyone knows, there's a very exciting narrative about Africa rising that all of us are part of. Now, in spite of that story, you know, behind the story, there's still a lot of issues in Africa that we really need to work on. And one of the key things is that for that Africa rising story to be truly sustainable and truly inclusive, there's an estimate that 70 million jobs need to be created in the next 10 years. Now, if we are going to be creating that many jobs, behind that, we also need to ensure that the educational system that is in place in Africa is ready to educate people to take those jobs and to provide them with the quality of education and the skills they need to be part of that transformation. And even though we see rising rates of enrollment, et cetera, across Africa, I think it's well known that the quality of education and access is still not where it should be. So what we're going to be talking about today is not the problems, because I think we're all aware of that. Africa is in a new era now, and it's now not about the problems, it's about solving them, and it's about moving ahead. And so what I want each of the panelists to talk about is not the problems, but more about how to solve them and how we're going to move forward and some of the innovations that they've seen. So with that, I would like to start with His Excellency, Mr. Thiam, and ask, in your current role in Senegal, could you please walk us through some of the key innovations that you're introducing, both from the public sector, but also to get the private sector more involved in the education sector in your country?
Thank you very much. Since yesterday evening, everyone has spoken English. Coming from a French-speaking country, I'm going to speak French.
Pas de problème. Allez-y.
Au niveau du Sénégal, en parlant de l'expérience du Sénégal, sur les défis majeurs et les solutions que nous entrevoyons, j'ai précisé que au cours de la décennie 2000-2011, avec les initiatives qui ont été lancées pour accélérer l'accès à l'éducation, le Sénégal a fait d'énormes progrès dans le domaine de l'accès à l'éducation. Le taux brut de scolarisation est passé de 63% environ à 94,6% au cours de cette décennie. Des progrès aussi ont été réalisés dans la qualité de l'éducation, mais surtout au niveau de l'équité entre les filles et les garçons. L'indice de parité au niveau de l'enseignement préscolaire, de l'enseignement élémentaire, a été en faveur des filles. Mais après cette décennie, un certain nombre de défis restaient. Ces défis tenaient surtout à la qualité de l'éducation. Le focus mis sur l'accès a altéré la qualité de l'éducation. Lorsque ce programme sectoriel de 10 ans a été évalué en 2012, nous avons maintenant, au niveau du gouvernement, défini une nouvelle vision pour l'éducation. nouvelle vision qui a été opérationnalisée dans le cadre d'un nouveau programme sectoriel qui couvre la période 2013-2025 et qu'on appelle paquet. P comme programme, A comme amélioration, QU comme qualité, E comme équité, T comme transparence. Programme d'amélioration de la qualité, de l'équité et de la transparence. Ce programme vise 3 objectifs stratégiques. Le premier objectif stratégique, c'est améliorer la qualité des enseignements-apprentissages. Le deuxième objectif stratégique, c'est de résorber les disparités pour un accès équitable à l'éducation. Disparités qui sont des disparités de genre, d'origine géographique ou de type d'enseignement. Je reviendrai sur ça. Troisième axe stratégique, c'est la promotion d'une gouvernance inclusive et transparente. Parce qu'une des leçons apprises sur la décennie passée, c'est que beaucoup de ressources ont été injectées dans l'éducation, mais ces ressources n'ont pas été utilisées toujours de façon efficiente. Donc voilà ces 3 stratégies. Bien sûr, pour élaborer ce programme stratégique, le secteur privé a été convié au dialogue politique. Le secteur privé, au niveau du Sénégal, dans le système, dans l'éducation, intervient comme opérateur d'éducation qui crée des écoles privées, comme investisseur et comme partenaire dans le dialogue politique que nous avons pour définir la politique éducative. Ce nouveau programme sectoriel que nous avons élaboré, qui couvre la période 2013-2025, pour l'élaborer, le gouvernement a rencontré les organisations de la société civile qui interviennent dans l'éducation, les syndicats, les parents d'élèves et le secteur privé. Le secteur privé, opérateur d'éducation qui crée et manage des écoles privées, comme le secteur privé, investisseur dans l'éducation. À ce stade de la discussion, c'est les quelques éléments d'appréciation que je voudrais indiquer sur ce que le gouvernement du Sénégal a fait et comment le secteur privé est impliqué. Nous aurons l'occasion de revenir et de développer en quoi comme opérateur il intervient, en quoi comme investisseur il intervient et en quoi comme partenaire il intervient.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one follow-up question for you quickly. So what is the government then doing to incentivize the private sector to enter the education space?
Nous avons au niveau du Sénégal un secteur public d'éducation parce que l'obligation constitutionnelle d'éduquer les enfants incombe au gouvernement. Mais le gouvernement a mis en place un cadre législatif qui sont des lois et des décrets qui permettent au secteur privé d'intervenir dans le système éducatif comme opérateur d'éducation. Ce secteur privé actuellement couvre 14% des élèves du primaire sont dans le secteur privé de l'éducation. 15% au niveau du premier cycle du secondaire, 16% au niveau du deuxième cycle, 30% au niveau de l'enseignement supérieur et 50% au niveau de la formation professionnelle, et assuré par les opérateurs privés. Maintenant, pour cela, le gouvernement a 2 stades de reconnaissance des établissements privés qui interviennent dans l'éducation. Le premier, c'est que lorsque des investisseurs veulent intervenir comme opérateurs d'éducation, il y a un certain nombre de dossiers qu'ils déposent au niveau du ministère chargé de l'éducation. Si un certain nombre de prérequis est respecté, ils ont l'autorisation d'ouverture de l'école privée. Lorsqu'ils vont fonctionner pendant 4 ans, avec des standards que le gouvernement met en place, ils ont ce qu'on appelle la reconnaissance. Donc, ils passent d'établissement autorisé à établissement reconnu par l'État. Et ils doivent suivre le programme officiel du gouvernement et délivrer les diplômes du gouvernement. Lorsque ces établissements sont reconnus, le gouvernement du Sénégal vote dans son budget annuellement une part qui est consacrée à des subventions au niveau du secteur privé, aux établissements privés d'enseignement. Et cette subvention est distribuée en tenant compte du nombre d'enseignants qualifiés, du nombre d'élèves qui sont admis aux examens, du nombre d'élèves seulement, et d'un certain nombre de critères. Voilà les mesures incitatives que le gouvernement prend pour encourager le développement du secteur privé.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Hannah, let's move to you. I was just told that your ambition is to one day be the Prime Minister of Canada. I'm a Canadian Nigerian, she's a Canadian Ethiopian. However, I hope that instead you'll look back to Africa and think of that position in Ethiopia instead. But you've developed a remarkable program that has gone to incredible scale and at such a young age. So if you could tell us a little bit about your program, but then also what you're seeing from your generation of young Africans in the diaspora, and how you think, what ideas you might have that you could offer as well in terms of how you could help transform education, especially with the private sector and the public sector working together.
Of course. Thank you. First of all, I'm so honored to be here and to share my voice and the voice of youth on this panel for investment in education. I'll just talk a little bit about my Pencil Mountain project. I've been able to deliver basic school supplies and resources for children in East Africa, and especially in terms of marginalized groups such as girls who do not have access to quality education. And I'd like to just quickly share a story of when I was traveling in Ethiopia to a very rural village called Adigudum in Ethiopia. So I was there to distribute a bunch of school supplies, and I had gone there and sat down and had a conversation with a mother who had come to collect school supplies for her children. And this mother had 4 children, and after talking to her through conversation, I learned that she was only sending one of the children to school, and this was the boy. And she had 3 girls and 1 boy out of the 4 children that she had. So I sat down with her, and I asked her, why are you only sending your boy to school and not the girls? And she told me that she could only afford to send the boy. So at that point, education became an economical decision and matter for the family. So through forms of alternative education that the private sector can invest in, such as extended school hours, where children can take shifts so that all children are educated, and other alternative forms of education that the private sector can invest in, this is how education can be transformed in Africa, as well as through making sure that all children are educated. I'd like to also highlight a few other initiatives that I've been able to work with in UNICEF in promoting girls' education, and that's EduTrack. And this is an initiative that's been very successful in Uganda, and this is focused on collecting data through mobile phones. And this is able to track the progress of the schools in the regions through the teachers and through the school administration, through the communities, to make sure that they are being held accountable, to make sure that the quality of education is always improving and always growing. Another initiative is the conditional cash transfers in Africa that UNICEF and other partners are working on. And this is very important, not because it's such a technological innovation, but because it's something that works. And this is providing financial support to families so they can send their girls to school. And this is also providing incentive. The last thing that I'd like to highlight, which is another great thing that UNICEF and several other partners are working on, is the framework for business engagement in education. And this is a resource that details how the private sector and the public sector can work together to bring investments in education so that the quality of education, educational opportunities, and educational resources are all going to be improved so that every child in Africa, every child around the world has access to quality education. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Nguer, you've been working for Total across Africa for 30 years. You've worked in West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa. You've been in Anglophone, Francophone. You've seen it all.
Yeah.
Over your career, have you seen an improvement in the skills and education across the continent? so that's first question, but then also, what are some of the innovations you're seeing that are creating better skills for what you as a company need?
Thanks. First, what I've seen, indeed, like the minister said, well, between you and me, there's a majority of Senegalese on this panel because I'm a Senegalese too, so there are two Senegalese for one Ethiopian. It says something about Senegal. On a more serious note, like the minister was saying, I've seen probably an increase in enrollment of children in Africa. What I've seen too is a drop in quality. And there's something that is quite worrying for me, which says something about the involvement of private sector. That is the disconnect between Francophone Africa and Anglophone Africa. Because what we are seeing today as a company operating across the continent, I'm in charge of 45 countries in Africa. What I'm seeing is that disconnect. We are getting better educated staff in Anglophone Africa than in Francophone Africa. Because probably governments in Francophone countries, they've inherited from the French system without having the means to support education throughout, from primary school to university. In the French system, it's government duty to do that. There's no involvement, there's very little involvement of private sector in France in education. It's quite unusual to have school fees in primary school in France. And governments in Francophone Africa try to do the same thing, except that maybe they were able to do that in the 60s. Today, when you have millions of people to take to school, governments do not have the means. Hence, the need probably to have more involvement of private sector into education, especially in Francophone Africa. Now, as a company, having been on the continent for more than 60 years, as an employer, we need to support governments into doing these things. That's why my company actually is involved into education in Africa. That's why I'm here. How can we leverage what government is doing? And I just would like to mention two things we are doing in total, and maybe what governments can do too, if you allow. One thing we are doing, for example, is we are sending staff from Total, either active or retired. We have a program that's called Total Professor Associate, associates teachers of Total or whatever. That's staff of the group, either in engineering or those sciences, who are working on our organization, both in head office or in on the field, to universities to train students into oil-related stuff. We have that across the continent. We're sending teachers to university for free. The second thing is that we have partnership with more than 50 universities today in Africa, supporting them in form of courses we're giving. We have that in Port Harcourt in Nigeria, we have that in Congo, we have that in Senegal, we have that in other countries. And the last thing we are doing is we have specific programs in some countries, in Congo, Cameroon, Angola. In Angola, we even have 4 secondary schools actually where we are taking children at the age of 15, take them through scientific studies up to back to the end of secondary school, then send them to universities either in the US or in England or in France, so as to get skilled students in our domain. There's something that is very interesting that they are doing in France, and I think that may be interesting for governments in Africa to consider. 0.5%, there's a tax that represents 0.5% of the payroll of each company in France. You have to pay that tax, 0.5% of your payroll expenses. Either you pay them to government or you allocate them to any school you want in France. And that is quite effective. That means that I, as Total in France, I can take, and that's millions for me because we have 6,000 people in France, and I allocate those millions to whichever university or private school I want to, depending on my assessment of what they are doing, the quality of the education they are going, or how that fit into my needs. Now, if you have a bunch of 10 companies with diverse interests, they can allocate that amount to, or you forfeit it and government will have to make you pay it anyway. I think it's better to let it to the companies to allocate rather than, with due respect, Mr. Minister, to let government do the allocation.
Okay. So then also, if you're working across 45 countries, you likely, on some of these, you collaborate with government and so on. Do you feel that governments in Africa that you work with, since you're focused on education, are they on top of this issue, and do you feel confident that this is something that with the right amount of funding and the right partnerships, we can get to the level of education, both the access and quality that's needed?
Depends on government. Unfortunately, there are a number of governments that are not being very proactive, that are just reacting to citizens' riots or reacting when there are issues being raised because there are elections coming. I think when it comes to education, you need to really be proactive. Think ahead. Where do I want this country to be in 10 years' time? Which sort of training do I need? How long does it take? Because otherwise you end up, it's always a question of allocation of public funds. Now, here you are really planting a tree. Education cannot be a short-term issue. Therefore, for governments, unfortunately, sometimes they are facing urgent needs: electricity, water supplies, fertilizers. Of course, they'll give priority to that. So I think it needs probably at the leadership level to have people who can think ahead and say, well, okay, this is where I want to take my country to. I'm going to spend, I'm going to invest, because it's about investing. I'm going to invest for the long run. Well, it takes guts. But it does happen.
Okay. So, Your Excellency, let me come to you then for a follow-up. Based on what was just said, obviously when you're in the cabinet, you're with a number of all the other ministers competing for funds against, the healthcare, against agriculture, against Ministry of Defense, etc. How do you make the case of how important education is and why the government should increase their spending there?
Oui, parce que tout simplement, je crois, l'éducation, une bonne éducation conditionne le développement dans les autres secteurs. Au niveau, par exemple, du Sénégal, nous avons un certain nombre de défis concernant la santé. La santé, par exemple, maternelle et infantile. Il est prouvé, je crois, que la meilleure façon d'améliorer à long terme la santé maternelle et infantile, la meilleure façon de lutter contre les mariages précoces, c'est d'éduquer les jeunes filles. Donc, l'éducation est le premier élément qui, de façon durable, améliore la santé. Dans le domaine de la politique de l'emploi aussi, il est prouvé que lorsque vous avez une main-d'œuvre qualifiée, c'est un facteur d'attractivité des investissements pour votre pays. Et même pour utiliser l'ensemble des biens et services publics du Sénégal, pour faire participer pleinement les citoyens à la démocratie du Sénégal, qui est déjà un pays démocratique, il faut des citoyens qui sont éduqués. C'est ce qui fait qu'au niveau du gouvernement du Sénégal, près de 32% du budget de fonctionnement est alloué à l'éducation, qui représente à peu près 6% du PIB, du produit intérieur brut, au rang de priorité. Maintenant, comme je l'ai indiqué, toutes ces ressources allouées à l'éducation n'ont pas été utilisées de façon efficiente. À cause de la pression qu'il y a des syndicats, je vous apprends qu'au niveau du ministère de l'Éducation nationale, j'ai 50 syndicats d'enseignants. 50, j'en ai. La pression, une bonne part était allouée aux ressources salariales. Maintenant, j'ai indiqué tout à l'heure qu'un des axes stratégiques que nous avons, c'est la promotion de la qualité des enseignements et des apprentissages. Et nous avons un grand défi pour la formation des enseignants. La formation initiale et continue des enseignants. Parce qu'il est prouvé que pour améliorer de façon durable la qualité, là aussi, il faut intervenir sur la formation, sur l'enseignant, qui est le premier intrant de qualité du système éducatif. Et dans le paquet dont j'ai parlé, qui est le programme d'amélioration de la qualité et de l'équité et de la transparence, nous avons un grand volet sur la formation initiale des enseignants et sur la formation continue des enseignants pour renforcer les capacités des enseignants que nous avons recrutés ces 10 dernières années pour répondre aux défis de l'accès, mais en négligeant un peu la qualité de l'enseignement. Donc voilà à peu près les arguments que nous développons. Nous disons à nos autres collègues du gouvernement que si vous siégez au gouvernement, c'est parce que vous avez une éducation de qualité. Donc permettez à d'autres d'avoir une éducation de qualité. Nous essayons de leur faire comprendre que l'éducation n'a pas de prix, elle a une valeur.
All right. Thank you very much. So Hannah, you look like you want to make a follow-on comment.
Yeah, just to add up to what the minister was saying about the correlation between maternal and child health and education. A child born to a literate mother is 50% more likely to live past the age of 5. So it's very true that education has to be the top priority for the public sector, for the private sector, for all partnerships, and it has to be at the heart of the visions and goals for all African countries, for all countries around the world. So going forward, education should be at the top of the agenda, and this information also has to be presented to all sectors to show the benefits and the truth in how education is transforming all of our countries and all the countries in Africa, and how that can be used as a guideline for investment and to draw investment.
So Hannah, for education in Africa to be improved, obviously we need more teachers, better teachers, etc. Now, from the young people that I speak to in Nigeria and across Africa, I never meet anybody who says, "Oh, I want to be a teacher." It's not really seen as a profession of choice in these days. So how do you think we can create a different approach or a different view of education so that young people like yourself say, "Okay, you know what? I want to be a teacher, and I'm going to go teach in a school in my country in Africa or somewhere across the continent and contribute to this transformation," because we can talk about it all we want and we can make all the reforms and all the investments, but if we don't have teachers, it doesn't really matter.
And that inspiration starts within the classroom. Teachers currently now in Africa have to transform the way children think about education and the way that children understand education. And they have to see education and learning as a transfer of knowledge, and the fact that they can give that from themselves as a gift to their communities, as a gift to their country, as a service, so that they can overall better their country, their continent, and their world. So it starts with transforming the way we view education, especially in Africa, and providing hope for children and enabling them to see that they have the power within themselves to go out and make that difference. So I definitely think it starts within the classroom, with the existing teachers, the existing school administration, and advocating about education, why it's so important, why it is the core of every sector in Africa.
All right, thank you. So one final question before we take some questions from the audience. obviously the private sector will ultimately be the biggest beneficiary of an improved education sector. So the question I have is, you know, Total is working to improve education, et cetera, across Africa, but do you see other large companies doing this? And is there collaboration maybe within the oil sector or across multiple companies in the private sector that are collaborating to work together on this issue?
First, maybe just to add on to what you Anna said earlier about and the question of your question about teachers in Africa. I think that years ago I went to Senegal and for holidays, and I happened to come across one of my former teachers. I think I was very proud of what I am today. The issue with teachers today is this quite simple question. How can I be proud of what I'm doing if ultimately I don't know what will become of those I'm training? If you're training people and you know that they are somehow on a dead-end road because there's no job, there'll be no job at the end of the studies they are involved in, because 70% of students in West Africa are studying human sciences. Where will they get a job? If I'm a teacher of, teaching those sort of sciences, can't be proud teaching that, because ultimately, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? Therefore, yes, it creates frustration among the teachers. My former teacher was very proud because, okay, by then he was saying, I'm going to train this boy, I'm going to teach them something. I know they can make a living out of what I'm teaching them. Today, for most of these teachers, they don't have that hope. Now, going back to your question, what can private sector? I think government need to engage private sector. Governments should come, because listen, governments are able today to engage private sector on private-public partnership to build roads. They're able today to engage private sector in PPA to build utilities. I think they need to take the same approach. They need to consider this thing as any other investment. I am engaging private sector to build a port in Abidjan. I should, as government, I should take things the same way. Get private sector. Okay, guys, let's sit together. What can we do? You are telling me that if I want to make this country move ahead, in 5 years' time, we are going to need 10,000 people trained in civil engineering. Okay, let's have a 5 days workshop. What's the trade-off? Are you asking for tax holidays? How many out of those who are going to be trained are you willing to take on board? What about scholarships? What about internship? Governments are capable of doing things that are more difficult than that, because believe me, getting private sector investing in roads, investing in ports, investing in utilities, investing in generation of electricity is much riskier for a private sector than investing in education. And I think that what we are going to see in the coming years is that sort of a thing. And private sector, be they Total or not, they are really interested into, because you can't be the new frontier in terms of economy. Everybody is talking about Africa. That's the next thing that is going to happen. Watch this space. Africa there. 5-7% GDP growth. And then what? We need the people to make Africa move. We need to train people. Private sector is an interested party, but ultimately government should be the one convening the meetings.
So Your Excellency, I know you wanted to make a comment on that, but it would be interesting to hear your response to this as to whether education could be treated the same way, and you could say, you know what, we'll take a significant portion of our education sector and we'll create a public-private partnership and basically concession it to the private sector. Could that work?
Yes, nous avons, je vais réagir à ça parce que comme quelle est la situation du Sénégal en matière d'infrastructure? Parce que le financement des infrastructures a été un élément critique compte tenu des ressources disponibles pour accroître l'accès à l'éducation. Et pendant cette décennie de 2000 à 2011, où on a beaucoup progressé au niveau de l'accès à l'éducation en faisant passer le taux brut de scolarisation de 63 à 94%, en même temps que nous avons réduit les coûts unitaires de l'enseignant, ce qui a joué sur la qualité des enseignants, nous avons aussi indiqué que dans certaines zones du Sénégal, les élèves allaient à l'école dans ce qu'on appelait des abris provisoires, qui sont quelquefois des paillotes. Le raisonnement a été le suivant: il est préférable d'avoir un enfant qui sait écrire et lire, même si il apprend sous un arbre ou bien dans un abri provisoire, que d'avoir un enfant dans la rue qui ne sait ni lire ni écrire. Bien sûr, ces abris provisoires n'offrent pas des conditions d'apprentissage et d'enseignement optimales. Donc, le gouvernement du président Macky Sall installé a dit: nous avons à peu près 10 700 écoles et lycées. Il y a 2142 qui sont dans des abris provisoires. Lorsque nous avons fait l'estimation pour transformer ces abris provisoires en écoles en dur, c'est 65 milliards de francs CFA, 130 millions de dollars. Le budget du Sénégal, compte tenu des autres urgences qu'il y a dans les autres secteurs, ne pouvait pas supporter cet effort sur 1 an, ni sur 2 ans, ni sur 3 ans. Ce que nous avons imaginé donc l'année dernière, c'est de résorber les abris provisoires sur la base d'un partenariat public-privé. En quoi faisant? Nous avons lancé un appel à candidature qui est en train d'être étudié actuellement, où on demande à des privés de venir faire une opération coup de poing de résorption de ces abris provisoires en construisant des écoles en dur. Et le Sénégal, le montant qu'il dégageait chaque année pour la construction d'écoles, au lieu de le dégager en construction d'écoles, le dégage en termes de location-vente. Donc, le privé va construire l'école, le gouvernement va payer un montant, et au bout d'un certain temps, 7 ans ou 10 ans, l'infrastructure va revenir au gouvernement du Sénégal. C'est quelque chose de nouveau que nous sommes en train de tester pour que le privé s'implique comme investisseur dans les infrastructures d'éducation au Sénégal.
Fantastic. So I know I said I would go to the audience, but one more question for you, Hannah. So based on what you're hearing here, if you had a choice to be the Minister of Education or to be an investor with, say, $5 billion, which would you choose?
Okay. Based on what I've heard so far, I think I would choose to be an investor. And I'll say this only because I think coming from a perspective of the private sector and seeing all the innovations that governments are putting forth and other partners, civil society partners, NGOs are putting forth, and all of the policy that is already in place for private sector to engage with the public sector, I think it is so much easier in this day and age to go forth and actually find something that will make a difference and invest in it and make a difference in education and improve the quality of education. So as a private sector leader or as a business leader, I would take that investment and use the existing policies and the existing initiatives that governments all across Africa, all across the world have already created and utilize that to invest in education. So I think there is a lot of room for the private sector to invest in current and existing initiatives and projects from governments, civil societies, and NGOs. So I think there is a lot more room to invest rather than to create a new framework for education.
All right, thank you very much. So everybody, if you're an investor out there looking for someone to work on your team, keep her in mind. If we can get some questions from the audience, please. Go ahead. No? Okay. All right, go ahead. If you can tell us your name and your organization and then ask the question, thanks.
Okay, my name is Mariam Katabu. I'm Nigeria's ambassador to UNESCO. Yeah, okay. Nigeria's ambassador to UNESCO. First of all, to appreciate the panel. But my areas of concern are largely to do with the disparities and inequities within Africa and what the large corporations who are operating in Africa are doing about that. Because most of the time you see on the stock exchange how well the companies are doing. But where their corporate social responsibility or philanthropy or foundations are needed most, they are not there. They are just clustered. I'm using Nigeria as an example. Generally clustered maybe around the southwest when the market is best, around the coastal regions where the oil companies are doing their best business, but where the services are needed most, they're absent. So where do you really draw a line? Because you need this intervention to go to the poorest, to go to the neediest communities. On the good note, the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, which is the forum for the organized private sector, is actually engaging with government starting from the 18th to 20th of this month to look at how the government and the private sector can foster effective partnerships towards transforming education. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe we could have a quick answer to that from the perspective of the private sector.
Well, Ambassador, just I want to be very clear. Private sector can support what governments are doing. Private sector will never step in the shoes of government. Who are we to do that? We can just come in support of what is being done in a country. I'm not in charge of education in Africa. As a company, yes, we can support. Sometimes we go a step further, try to promote education here and there. But on these things, I think one must be very, very humble too. Let me put it this way. Democracy is about getting people take their government to task. What are you doing to fulfill the needs of my people? That's what democracy is about. One should not expect private sector to play another role.
Okay, I would give a quick answer to that also, if I may. I think, you know, as long as education and the engagement of education in the private sector is seen as something that's done as CSR. So, for example, Total is an oil company, and then as part of their CSR, they give back through education. I don't think they can ever fill that gap, but I believe that as education is seen as a business in and of itself, as we see from GEMS, the host company here itself, once that becomes more prominent and more prevalent, I think then we'll be able to start having the private sector solve this problem in a more significant way. Go ahead. Okay.
Excuse me if I present my contribution in French, because it is for me more easy to talk in French than in English. Je voudrais me présenter tout d'abord, Monsieur Baba Ahmed, ministre de l'Éducation nationale en Algérie. Je présenterai quelques chiffres concernant mon pays. Nous avons actuellement 8,5 millions d'élèves dans le secteur de l'éducation, répartis sur 25 000 établissements, 18 000 écoles primaires, 4 000 CEM et 3 000 lycées. Nous avons actuellement, ces 8,5 millions représentent le quart de la population algérienne est actuellement à l'école. Nous avons le deuxième budget de l'État qui représente à peu près 10 milliards de dollars pour le secteur de l'éducation. Bien sûr, le secteur de l'enseignement supérieur et de la recherche scientifique est distingué, donc il est séparé du secteur de l'éducation. Je voudrais tout d'abord rebondir sur la remarque qui a été faite concernant les traditions que nous avons dans le système français. Effectivement, nous avons une tradition où l'école privée pratiquement n'existe pas, et actuellement, depuis presque une dizaine d'années, nous avons ouvert le secteur du privé et à peine 1,5% des élèves sont actuellement dans le secteur privé. Une autre remarque, le secteur public actuellement permet d'obtenir de meilleurs résultats que le secteur privé. Autre remarque aussi, les salaires qui sont donnés dans le secteur public sont actuellement meilleurs que ceux offerts dans le secteur privé. Alors, en matière de chiffres, nous avons actuellement 98% des élèves en âge d'aller à l'école à 6 ans se trouvent à l'école. Donc, ils sont pratiquement au niveau de l'école. Ce taux diminue vers le collège et vers le lycée pour atteindre les 95%. C'est ce qu'on appelle pratiquement les élèves qui abandonnent en cours de parcours. Une autre remarque concernant l'Algérie. Au niveau de la première année du primaire, à 6 ans, nous avons pratiquement la parité filles-garçons. Donc à peu près 51% de filles et 49% d'enfants, d'élèves, garçons. Ce taux, alors en Algérie, il augmente pour les filles, contrairement à d'autres pays. Les élèves qui obtiennent le baccalauréat pour accéder à l'université représentent 66% des élèves qui concourent au bac. 66%, ce taux est encore accentué à l'université. 80% des diplômés qui sortent de l'université sont des filles. Quand on fait des classements, je dis bien quand on fait des classements pour les premières places, nous avons 90% des filles qui obtiennent les premières places. Bon, ce sont des facteurs en même temps qui économiques. C'est peut-être l'une des raisons qu'on trouve, c'est que la fille est obligée de s'affirmer, donc de faire des études pour pouvoir avoir des emplois. Et actuellement, en Algérie, nous avons presque le tiers des postes supérieurs qui sont occupés par des filles. Au niveau de l'Assemblée nationale, nous avons 32% des membres de l'Assemblée nationale qui sont des femmes. Alors, bien sûr, ça c'est un peu le tableau reluisant. Maintenant, cela n'empêche pas de dire que nous avons énormément de problèmes. Et parmi ces problèmes, je voudrais citer que nous avons hérité aussi du système français, un système très revendicatif. Ça veut dire que moi, j'ai été étonné par le nombre de syndicats qui existent au Sénégal. Nous avons 10 syndicats. Je peux vous assurer qu'on passe plus de temps à négocier avec les syndicats qu'à réfléchir au secteur de l'éducation. Et donc, ces paramètres nous empêchent de veiller à assurer le défi de la qualité, puisque actuellement, en Algérie, il y a une croissance en nombre d'élèves qui fait qu'on ne peut pas satisfaire et la qualité, avec tous les moyens qu'on a, et la qualité et la quantité. Okay. Et donc, le principal facteur qui agit pour...
Nous n'avons pas beaucoup de temps. So il faut...
Je terminais en une phrase pour dire que même si on a des moyens, le plus souvent, vous avez des facteurs qui vous empêchent d'avoir la qualité, et je vous remercie.
Okay, merci. Okay, so if you could make a very quick comment, about what he said about the private sector and how the public sector is actually delivering better education outcomes. Do you think you'll find that in Senegal as well as the private sector gets more involved?
Bon, il est certain que ce qui a été indiqué, nous avons hérité un peu du système français, fait qu'il y a des résistances au niveau je cite seulement un exemple. Cette année, nous avons eu le secteur universitaire qui a été très perturbé par le fait que le gouvernement a décidé, dans le cadre de la réforme de l'université, d'augmenter les droits d'inscription des étudiants. Droits d'inscription qui n'ont pratiquement pas bougé depuis 30 ans, qui étaient de l'équivalent de 5 000 francs CFA, ça veut dire $10. Le gouvernement, après une concertation, a décidé de les faire passer à peu près à $50, et ça a paralysé l'université pendant un moment. C'est un changement de paradigme qu'il faut avoir, que l'étudiant doit contribuer à sa formation. Et que l'université, qu'on n'y va pas seulement parce qu'on n'a pas où aller, mais c'est par vocation qu'on y va. Et donc, je pense que l'implication du secteur privé demande aussi l'implication de l'apprenant dans sa formation, surtout pour l'enseignement supérieur, et aussi du secteur privé. Une autre expérience que nous avons de partenariat avec le secteur privé, c'est récemment, le mois dernier, après des négociations et des concertations, nous avons signé un contrat de partenariat avec une des sociétés qui intervient dans le secteur de la télécommunication pour un accès Internet gratuit à l'ensemble des écoles publiques, du primaire, du moyen et du secondaire. Bien sûr, comme on l'a indiqué ce matin, tout n'est pas d'avoir l'accès Internet gratuit, mais tout est de réfléchir sur les contenus pédagogiques pour que l'Internet à l'école ne soit pas un danger, mais une opportunité pour l'apprenant.
So thank you very much. We're very short on time, so one more question, but it should be a very quick question, please. Go ahead, at the back.
Okay, thank you very much.
Please stand up and please introduce yourself.
Malan Jata, Senior Policy Analyst, Policy Analysis Unit, Office of the President, the Gambia. Now, I'm very delighted to see my big brothers from Senegal giving their the education story in Senegal. Like Senegal, the Gambia, we also have the same, like almost similar education system. It's only the French and English aspect that is the difference. Now, we've introduced this education for all system at the lower basic school. And then the implication of that is we have a lot of children being enrolled in the lower basic school system in order to fulfill that education.
So please move quickly to your question. We're almost out of time.
Okay. Now, my question is, what is that serves as a challenge for the continent? What can we do in order to acquire that quality of education which is at stake? Because if you provide education for all these citizens, quality will be at stake, and that's what most countries in Africa are facing. What is the way forward for that? Thank you.
Okay. So Hannah, I'll let you address that. So how do we achieve the scale we need in Africa in education without the quality getting worse?
I think what's most important is through the partnerships of the private and the public sector, and I feel that that will improve the quality of education, as well as through sustainable, scaled initiatives. They have to be sustainable so that the community can undertake the quality, and over time they will work on the improvement and access of education in Africa, as well as scalable so that the communities themselves, they have their own education plan, education initiatives, and they can partner with the government, partner with the private sector, as well as partner with civil society and NGOs, because they also have initiatives that they have to undertake in Africa as well. So all of these partnerships working together, if they're sustainable, if they're scalable, and if the public and private sector can be smart about it and create initiatives that will align with each other's priorities, I feel that education in Africa will be improved and it will continue to be of quality.
Okay, thank you. So we're almost done, but I'll just ask each of our panelists to give a 30-second closing remark on the future of education in Africa. So Mr. Nguer?
Just maybe one word. And everybody to be aware of that time is of the essence. Want everybody to get out of the room with a sense of urgency. It's urgent to start moving.
I'd like to encourage everyone as we move forward with these public and private sector partnerships to remember to engage youth in the conversation and children in the conversation and their views, because ultimately these are the people that you're representing and they're the leaders of not only tomorrow but of today. And remember to invest in education, invest in children, and invest in girls and marginalized groups, because we need to support them as well. And that's not only an investment for Africa or for all of you today, but it's a world investment. So keep that in mind.
Your Excellency?
Les 2 ans que j'ai passés dans le secteur de l'éducation, d'abord en tant que ministre de l'Enseignement supérieur et de la Recherche, et puis ensuite en tant que ministre de l'Éducation nationale en charge du primaire et du secondaire. Et un peu le background que j'ai eu, d'où je viens et où je suis actuellement, me font dire que l'investissement où il y a le retour sur investissement le plus important, c'est l'éducation. Parce que lorsque je vois tous ces cadres au Sénégal, issus de familles pauvres, qui aujourd'hui servent leur pays à un niveau de responsabilité dans le secteur public ou dans le secteur privé très élevé, ce retour sur investissement, aucun autre investissement ne peut l'apporter. Deuxième élément de réussite de l'éducation, à mon sens, c'est que l'éducation considérée seulement comme l'affaire du gouvernement et un face-à-face entre les enseignants et le gouvernement ne permet pas d'atteindre des résultats. Il faudrait que l'éducation soit perçue, l'école soit perçue comme une école de la communauté. Dans la communauté, pour la communauté et par la communauté. Il faudrait que les familles et la communauté s'approprient l'école, ne pensent pas que c'est l'école du gouvernement. Je pense que c'est quelque chose aussi qu'on a perçu, et au Sénégal, nous avons essayé depuis l'année dernière d'intervenir dans cela, parce que l'année dernière, nous avons institué ce qu'on appelle la journée du retour au royaume d'école, où on prend un jour dans l'année scolaire, où tous les parents retournent à l'école de base où ils ont commencé l'école, ou bien retournent à l'école de leurs enfants, et tous les parents se retrouvent à l'école, et c'est quelque chose qui commence à créer cet esprit d'école de la communauté et l'école prise en charge par la communauté.
Well, thank you very much to our panelists for all their contributions towards this sector, which is so important to Africa's rise. So thank you very much.